Chosen one. Pause for a moment. Before you scroll. Before you doubt. Before your mind tries to explain this away. This message didn't reach you by accident. You have felt it, haven't you? That internal pressure, that spiritual weight, that sense that something ancient is waking up inside you. Not rage, not ego, but authority. A quiet, immovable knowing that you were not born to be passive in this era. Heaven is announcing something right now. Not with noise, but with alignment. The rise of a warrior king. And no, this is not about domination. This is not about violence. This is not about pride. This is about end-time authority being restored to those who were forged in silence, pressure, rejection, and fire. If your life has felt like a battlefield instead of a playground, if peace never came through avoidance but only through standing your ground, if you've always had to become strong before you were allowed to rest, this message is for you. Chosen one. You were never designed for a soft journey. You tried, didn't you? You tried being agreeable. You tried shrinking your truth. You tried choosing peace at the cost of your power. And every time, something inside you rebelled. Because warrior kings are not trained in comfort. They are trained in contrast. Your life required confrontation because your spirit carries governing authority. You were placed in environments that forced you to defend your identity, strengthen your voice, develop discernment, learn when to stand alone. Others learned love through safety. You learned love through loyalty under pressure. That's why you don't fold easily. That's why betrayal didn't destroy you. That's why disappointment sharpened you instead of breaking you. You weren't being punished. You were being armed. This is important. A warrior fights. A warrior king leads reality. A warrior reacts to battles. A warrior king changes the atmosphere before the battle begins. You don't crave chaos. You crave order. You don't want to dominate people. You want to protect truth. That's why injustice disturbs you deeply. That's why manipulation triggers something fierce in your spirit. That's why you can't tolerate false leadership. You were never meant to be ruled by broken systems. You were meant to override them. Heaven does not anoint everyone with end-time authority. Because authority requires responsibility, restraint, and discernment. And you've proven all three. Look back honestly. You were tested early, forced to mature fast, given responsibilities others avoided, put in situations where no one rescued you. That wasn't abandonment. That was preparation for command. Warrior kings are trained to make decisions under pressure, to remain calm while others panic, to see patterns while others see chaos. That's why your nervous system had to be refined. That's why you had to learn self-control. That's why emotional mastery became non-negotiable. End-time authority is not loud. It's composed. And your life demanded composure long before it was celebrated. Chosen one. This is the part where many get confused. Because when warrior king authority activates, it doesn't feel like hype. It doesn't feel like ego. It doesn't feel loud. It feels like gravity. A subtle, internal shift where you no longer reach for power. Power responds to you. If you've been feeling off lately, not broken but repositioned, this is why. Let's talk about the signs. There was a time when things triggered you quickly. Disrespect, manipulation, being misunderstood. But lately, something changed. You still notice everything. But you don't react. You decide. You pause. You observe. You move intentionally. That's not numbness. That's command-level composure. Warrior kings are trained not to leak energy emotionally. They respond only when movement is required. If your emotions feel calmer but sharper at the same time, your authority is coming online. You don't argue anymore. You disengage. You don't try to fix chaotic people. You don't explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You don't stay where integrity is optional. Disorder exhausts you now, not because you're weak, but because your spirit is designed for governance. A warrior king does not adapt to chaos. Chaos either aligns or loses access. If your circle is shrinking but your clarity is expanding, this is activation, not isolation. There was a season when you felt pressure to speak constantly, to defend, to clarify, to prove. That season is over. Now your silence communicates. People feel you before you speak. Rooms shift when you enter. Conversations adjust around you. This isn't intimidation. This is presence. Heaven is teaching you the power of restraint. Because restraint is the language of kings. Let's be honest. You've felt a weight lately. Not sadness. Not fear. Responsibility. A sense that your actions matter more now. That your choices carry consequences beyond yourself. That your alignment affects others. This is the mantle settling. Authority always feels heavier before it feels natural. Because your nervous system is adjusting to a higher level of impact. If you've been craving discipline, structure, and solitude, your spirit is calibrating for leadership. Notice this. You don't ask as much anymore. You don't wait for validation. You don't need consensus to move. You consult internally. You trust your discernment. You execute. That doesn't make you reckless. It makes you self-governed. End-time authority requires people who cannot be easily influenced, pressured, or swayed. If you've stopped crowdsourcing your destiny, heaven is trusting you with command. You can sense it instantly now. Performative confidence. Spiritual manipulation. Leaders who crave control instead of responsibility. It bothers you, not because you want power, but because you recognize misalignment. Warrior kings don't compete with false leaders. They expose them simply by existing in truth. If you've felt anger rise when you witness injustice or deception, that fire is not rage. It's protective authority. This is one of the clearest signs. You're no longer terrified of standing alone. You'd rather be solitary than compromised. You'd rather be misunderstood than misaligned. That courage didn't come from nowhere. It came from training. Warrior kings don't fear isolation, because they know leadership always starts there. If you've chosen integrity over acceptance repeatedly, your authority is no longer dormant. Notice the polarity. Some people are drawn to you instantly. They feel safe, grounded, seen. Others feel threatened, uncomfortable, defensive. You didn't change your behavior. Your frequency changed. Authority reveals what alignment hides. When your presence creates division without effort, it means heaven is separating roles around you. You sense it. Time matters. Preparation matters. Clarity matters. But you're not anxious. You're alert. This is not fear. This is readiness. End-time authority carries urgency without chaos. Movement without rush. Precision without pressure. If your spirit feels awake, alert, and focused, activation is underway. Chosen one. You are not changing into someone new. You are returning to who you were before the world tried to tame you. The warrior king was always there, waiting for the right moment to rise. And that moment is now. Let's address the truth most won't say. You triggered people without trying. Your strength made the unhealed uncomfortable. Your boundaries exposed manipulators. Your silence unnerved those who relied on noise. You weren't arrogant. You weren't cold. You were uncontrollable. And systems hate what they can't dominate. That's why you were misunderstood. That's why your motives were questioned. That's why people projected onto you. A warrior king doesn't beg for loyalty. Loyalty reveals itself naturally. Chosen one. This is where many misunderstand their calling. Because when people hear authority, they imagine control. When they hear power, they imagine dominance. When they hear king, they imagine ego. But heaven does not operate like the world. End-time authority is not about how much you can command. It's about where you are placed. Authority flows from alignment, not ambition. And that's why you were never allowed to chase power. You may have noticed something strange in your life. Every time you tried to force progress, it stalled. Every time you tried to prove yourself, it drained you. Every time you tried to step ahead of your season, resistance showed up. That wasn't rejection. That was protection. Because end-time authority cannot be seized. It must be assigned. Heaven positions before it promotes. Roots before visibility. Depth before reach. And you were being positioned while others were being applauded. Let's be honest. Your path hasn't been straight. You've experienced detours, pauses, and sudden endings that didn't make sense. Relationships ended abruptly. Opportunities dissolved without explanation. Plans you were sure about collapsed. This wasn't chaos. This was repositioning. Authority only functions correctly in the right environment. Place a king in the wrong territory and even wisdom fails. So heaven moved you. Pulled you out. Shut doors you begged to stay open. Not to punish you, but to seat you correctly. Here's a truth few understand. Power shouts. Position commands without speaking. When you're positioned correctly, people listen without you insisting. Opportunities align without manipulation. Resistance decreases without explanation. That's why you don't have to convince anymore. That's why persuasion feels unnatural now. That's why pushing drains you. You were never meant to force outcomes. You were meant to stand where heaven placed you. End-time authority cannot coexist with hidden compromise. That's why shortcuts never worked for you. That's why everyone does it never felt right. That's why your conscience was louder than others. Your integrity was not a weakness. It was a qualification. Heaven does not grant authority to those who negotiate truth. It entrusts it to those who remain aligned even when it costs them. You lost things because you refused to bend. And that loss became your positioning. This is crucial. End-time authority is less about expansion and more about stabilization. In unstable times, heaven doesn't look for popularity. It looks for pillars. People who don't collapse under pressure. People who don't sway with trends. People who don't trade truth for comfort. Your role is not to chase the crowd. Your role is to anchor reality. That's why your life demanded emotional regulation. That's why discipline became essential. That's why self-mastery was non-negotiable. You were being trained to hold position when others retreat. Let's name it. Positioning is lonely. Not because you're superior, but because alignment narrows access. When heaven seats you in authority, it limits who can reach you. You've felt this. The shrinking circles. The misunderstood silence. The sense that fewer people get you now. This is not loss. This is clarity. Kings are not surrounded by crowds. They are surrounded by alignment. Another sign of positioning? You couldn't rely on external guidance forever. At some point, advice confused you. Too many voices drained you. You had to listen inward. That was intentional. End-time authority requires self-governance. Those who cannot rule themselves cannot be trusted to influence others. Your solitude refined your discernment. Your silence sharpened your judgment. Your discipline stabilized your power. This part will free you. You don't need visibility. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. You need accuracy. Right timing. Right environment. Right alignment. A mispositioned king creates chaos. A well-positioned king creates order effortlessly. That's why heaven delayed exposure. That's why anonymity protected you. That's why obscurity trained you. Chosen one. Do not chase power. Do not envy noise. Do not rush exposure. Stay positioned. Stay aligned. Stay disciplined. Authority is already responding to you. Even if you can't see it yet. Heaven doesn't rush kings. It seats them. This part matters deeply. Warrior kings with impure hearts become tyrants. So your heart had to be broken open before your authority could rise. You loved deeply. You forgave painfully. You learned compassion the hard way. Now your strength is balanced. Your power is restrained. Your authority is safe. You can lead without abusing, correct without humiliating, stand firm without becoming cruel. That balance is rare, and heaven guards it fiercely. Chosen one. You were not born randomly into this time. Out of all generations, this one needed you. Not louder voices, not more opinions, not endless reactions. It needed stability. And that is your role. Some were called to retreat. Some were called to observe. Some were called to heal quietly. But you were called to stand. Not to run from darkness, but to bring order where confusion dominates. Your spirit does not collapse under pressure. It clarifies. That's why chaos never felt like an invitation to panic. It felt like a signal to focus. You are here to hold the line when others scatter. People may not understand why they feel calmer around you. Why conversations slow down when you enter. Why decisions feel clearer after speaking with you. That's not charisma. That's alignment. In unstable times, heaven plants people who function as reference points. Anchors others can orient themselves around. You don't convince. You don't persuade. You embody. And embodiment changes atmospheres. Your life sharpened your perception. You notice patterns. You sense shifts before they become obvious. You read between words, not just hear them. That wasn't overthinking. That was discernment training. This era requires people who can detect deception early, sense when systems are failing, recognize false peace, identify real solutions. Your role is not to panic about collapse. It's to prepare for transition. This is huge. Most chaos comes from people who cannot regulate themselves. You were forced to learn emotional discipline, boundary clarity, internal leadership. Not because life was unfair, but because this era needs examples of self-ruled individuals. People who don't need constant validation. People who don't outsource responsibility. People who don't collapse when unrecognized. Your calm is instructional. This is important. Warrior kings don't exhaust themselves on every conflict. They choose strategic engagement. Your role is not to argue online endlessly. Not to correct every lie. Not to save everyone. Your role is to preserve energy, move precisely, and intervene only where alignment calls. Silence is not retreat. It is positioning. Notice this. You don't resonate with blind obedience. You don't resonate with reckless rebellion. You carry balanced authority. Firm, but compassionate. Grounded, but flexible. Strong, but controlled. In an era of extremes, your role is integration. Bringing order without oppression. Truth without cruelty. Strength without domination. That balance is rare. That's why your journey was intense. This era is not ending. It's shifting. Old systems are cracking. False structures are being exposed. Surface-level leadership is failing. Your role is not to mourn what's collapsing. Your role is to remain steady while others panic. Stability is contagious. When you don't react, others regulate. When you don't rush, others slow down. When you stand firm, others find footing. Here's the quiet truth. True authority is recognized, not announced. People will begin to seek your input. Trust your judgment. Follow your lead without you asking. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence feels reliable. Reliability is the currency of this era. Chosen one. You are not meant to be everywhere. You are meant to be exact. Where you stand matters. How you move matters. When you speak matters. Stay grounded. Stay disciplined. Stay aligned. You are not here to dominate the age. You are here to stabilize it. Chosen one. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not weak. You were trained in silence. Forged in pressure. Refined in restraint. Heaven announces your rise not with applause, but with alignment. Stand tall. Stay disciplined. Move with clarity. You are a warrior king, and your authority is needed now. If this message resonated with your spirit, type, "I stand in authority," in the comments. Not for me. For alignment. And if you are ready for the next activation message heaven is releasing for warrior kings in this era, subscribe and stay close. This is only the beginning. Chosen one, before you go, I want to speak to the givers, the ones whose hearts feel called to pour back into the vessel that pours into them. If this message awakened you, if it strengthened you, if it spoke to your spirit in a way only heaven could orchestrate, then I invite you, only if your heart feels led, to sow a $1 seed into this channel. Not because God needs it, but because giving is a spiritual law. A small seed carries big obedience. And God multiplies what is given with pure intention. Your $1 keeps this ministry alive, keeps the messages flowing, and helps this word reach the next chosen one who needs it. If you feel that nudge in your spirit, if you feel that gentle pull, you can plant your $1 seed using the link in the description. And if you can't or don't feel led, you are still loved, still seen, and still covered. Blessings to every giver, and blessings to every listener. Your seed moves heaven in ways you may never see. But God sees it all.